I'm Clarke Speaks, the catastrophic injury lawyer. Welcome to The Verdict. This is 5 failures from success.
What role does gratitude play in this? I know, gratitude for your team, gratitude for these events that, on the surface may not look like a positive event. How do you work that out?
So the smartest and most successful people I know practice gratitude, like when running a business, running a life, running a family can be stressful. There's just times when you're just like, there's a lot going on and it's challenging. You can always, if you have a problem arise, sometimes you can't see anything but the other problems. So I'll listen to Tony Robbins, and so Tony Robbins does this exercise. Tony Robbins is a famous motivational speaker, and I think he's fantastic. I don't have any affiliation with him at all, but I do go to his stuff, and I encourage other people to go to his stuff because it's phenomenal. One of the things he does is he says to people, all right, so in a second, I'm going to count to 10. And in 10 seconds, I want you to look around this room and find everything that's red. Okay? Go. And he's like, 1, 2, 3. He counts to 10. And then when you get back, when you stop, you go, okay, what's red? And you go, okay, well, this button is red. And that bag is red. And those cameras are, some of the equipment on those cameras are red. And in that box, in that refrigerator, there's some red. And all this. And there's a marker on this blackboard that's red. Okay, and then he goes, okay, now what's brown? And you're like, and so the point of it is you can find what you're looking for. So if you're looking for problems, if you're looking for negative things, if you're looking for challenges, if you're looking for unfairness, if you're looking for life treated me unfairly in this way, you can find it. 100% you can find it. But if you're looking for great things, for opportunities, for gifts, for blessings, you can find those too. And so part of what's important about life is finding your gratitude, and because that's your responsibility. This is another thing that I learned from one of my clients relatively recently. So Colin is a person that we had on the podcast. He's in He That Overcometh, that section of the podcast. But he was working. He was 21 years old, riding a work van, when somebody blows a stop sign and smashes into him. Van's upside down. He's paralyzed from the waist down in this collision. He's got a small child at the time, an infant child. And so I had him on and we talked about all this stuff. And he was, one of my favorite people of all time. Just people, not to mention just clients, because, I don't think he's ever, I don't know, but I didn't get the impression he'd ever studied a lot of philosophy and all this kind of stuff, but he intuitively knew a lot of the things that these guys talk about. And he's a smart guy. He takes care of his family, and he's a hardworking guy and all this. Gets in this accident, and then I'm like, okay, well, what is the first thing that helped you go through it? And so like I know from books and stuff that you go through this denial and acceptance and bargaining and all these things, right? And he goes without blinking, without missing a beat, he goes, gratitude. And I'm like, hold on a second, I don't remember seeing that in a book, and he's like, yeah, gratitude. And I'm like, explain, what are you talking about? And he's like, so I'm sitting in this van, I'm upside down, I'm waiting an hour, 2 hours for this jaws of life to come and rip it apart so they can get me out. I know. He's like, I know. I can't. You know what I mean? He's like, something is bad wrong. I know. But I've got gas and oil and stuff raining all down on me, and I'm like, there's a very good chance I'm going to die right here as I'm waiting for this thing. And then he talks about when he goes, if you have a spinal injury in this region of the country, a lot of people will go to the Spinal Institute in Atlanta, Georgia. And he was there, and he talks about how one of the doctors there, the first doctor that came and saw him was a guy who was in a wheelchair himself, was not a very nice person or whatever, was kind of not very cool and all this. The second guy that came was like, come with me. And they go down the hallway, And if you've ever been to, I have to go there for work sometimes. We have people who are in catastrophic injury accidents. We've had many clients that have come through that. It's a great facility, amazing facility, great doctors, great staff, great mission. And Colin follows him through the hallways, and he's kind of showing him some different people. And he sees what the doctor's pointing out to him. He's like, it could have been worse. There's some of these people that they're not going home. They don't have what you have. They don't have these abilities that you have. And so gratitude, I think, is important for all of us. You know what I mean? And so if I'm feeling like, hey, these dots are lining up in such a way, and I have the same challenges everybody else has, hey, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if, I'm concerned about this. I'm concerned about this. I have this thing is causing me stress, But then if I go, okay, let me think about what I'm thankful for. I'll tell you another place that came up. One of the failures that we talked about was I had a very serious financial challenge in 2006 or whatever it was, 2005, 6, 7. And I remember, being on the back porch, you know what I mean, and thinking through this stuff. My wife and kids had gone off to a birthday party or something. And I was like just stressing and sweating over all this stuff. And the movie Blood Diamond, did I tell you about this?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a same example of the same thing. I'm sitting there sweating about all this stuff, and the Blood Diamond comes on, and I see these terrible things happen to these people, and I realize, you know what? I've got my wife, I've got my kids, I've got my health. I got everything. I'll be fine. And so that gratitude, I think, is critical.
What else do you think is, something important that we can learn from your message?
So one of the things that I think is important is purpose. Like, we all have to be useful. We all need to be useful to other people. And sometimes when we're just so focused on what we want to do and what we want, out of life, then we lose sight of that. And so, what comes to my mind is, people talk about retiring. They work their whole lives with this eye towards retiring. And when they retire, they'll be able to, play golf or go to the beach or sleep late or whatever it is they want to do, And when I was growing up, my mom worked as she was a teacher. And in the summer, she would get a job in a dress shop. And then after school on Saturdays, she would work in a dress shop and stuff. So she worked really hard. And then on Sunday, she would teach Sunday school and work at the church and stuff. So she worked very hard, when I was growing up. I mean, all the way through, for my whole, life up until, I forget, I was probably 30s, mid 30s or something when she retired. And she retired, and then after that, she worked in a dress shop, and she volunteered at the church all the time and all this, and she kept doing that for a long time. Well, then it got to the point where she was probably too old to do those things, right? And so at that point, she was living with us. What I saw in her is so much of her identity was built around helping people, teaching people, nurturing people, helping people, and being useful to other people. Then when she got to the point physically and mentally where she couldn't do that, it was a sort of a great source of frustration for her. She would say, what can I do, And at first we would say nothing, relax, you've earned it. But then she was like, she wasn't happy doing that. So we would go, okay, well, we'll bring some laundry and we'll fold some laundry. Or for a while she would do dishes, and then I could see that it was hurting her back to stand there and do dishes and stuff. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's, and so, but I saw over and over again how, and then now she's in an assisted living facility, and when people come in, the people, the nurses and stuff that come in to take care of her, she's consistently wanting to, hey, can I get you something? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it's just because I think we as people derive a psychological and emotional benefit from being helpful and useful to other people. It's the reason we do this. So the reason that we're wanting to put this series out is because, in life you see people or meet people, clients, or sometimes my kids, friends or whatever, or people that you come in contact with socially who have experience unspeakable tragedy, these terrible, terrible, terrible things, And what I want to do is I want to pull them aside and say, or even people on the news, you want to pull them aside and say, hey, I'm sorry this thing happened to you. This is terrible that it happened. But it doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to be the summation of your life. It doesn't have to be the end of what you're trying to do or accomplish. It can be an excuse for failure. It can be the reason why things never went right for you. It can be the reason why you didn't accomplish all the things that you could have accomplished in your life. And it could be the reason why you didn't have the impact that you wanted to have. But it can also be the reason why you did. It can be a source of strength. It can be a source of platforms for success, and it can be part of your story of victory, and the reason you were able to have such a tremendous impact on other people. And so I think that's important, and that's the reason why we wanted to do this series.
Now, what is your message to people kind of going through these events, and what emotions do you think, or, what outlook on life would you encourage them to have?
So one of the things I think people have to take responsibility for is their own happiness. You know what I mean? Their own joy, it's your life. The government, culture, movies, or whatever, these things are things that are in your life, but your life is your responsibility, And so happiness is up to you, and joy is up to you, and purpose is up to you. And I think you have to find that, and it's your responsibility to find that. If you get to the end of your days and you're on your deathbed and you look back and you go, hey, I wasn't happy. I didn't enjoy that. I didn't find any joy in that journey. And it's because of this person or this thing or whatever. No, there's no third party there to go, hey, you're right, you're excused. You just have lost out on this unbelievable gift and opportunity of life. So overcoming these things, there's not anybody there to help you do that. There is not anybody there even if it's somebody else's responsibility, you were attacked in a minding your own business on a subway. If you get to the end of the road and you can look back and go, it's that guy's fault. So what? That guy is long gone. He's got his own journey. This is your journey. And so one of the things that occurs to me when I look back and I look at some of these different times, right? When I look back at when my dad left, then that was some of the best time in my life because it was me and my brother and my mom, and we were sort of inseparable, and we had, sure, we had some stress, but we also had some unbelievably great times, where we spent time together. We had family devotions, and we, laughed until we cried and all that kind of stuff. And there were some wonderful moments there. If I look back on the time that I had on my adult life, there were times when I had unbearable financial stress, because of all the things that I've talked to you about in the financial piece of this. I just thought, there's no way out. There's just no way out. This is horrible. At the same time, if I look back in my life and go, what is the stretch of time that was my favorite? That I would go back to in a heartbeat. My kids are little, and I didn't think about this until recently, but those periods of time overlap almost exactly. My kids are like, 3, 4, 5 years old. One of them is newborn, and I was having this financial struggle, but man, we had the time of our lives. We had dance parties, like I said. We had camping trips in the backyard. We spent time together. We had the best time, And we didn't do some of the things we do now in terms of travel and going to, different places and all this. But man, we had a good time together. We would dress up on a Tuesday for no reason after, work, and just have Halloween costumes and sit and watch, whatever, or play or whatever. We'd have water balloon fights in the yard. We had the best time. And that was one of my, so the idea that my point there is happiness is a journey and not a destination. I had this English teacher in high school, back to again these people that are so influential in your life, and they don't even realize it. The idea, I think it's a Charles Schultz Peanuts quote, but it's just happiness is a journey and not a destination. We always think, if I can just get to this place, if I can just get to, to finishing law school and doing these things, then I'll be. I'm not suggesting that that's your mentality, but that's a lot of people's mentality. Is if I can just, if I can just make $1 million, if I can just make $10 million, if I can just get this job or have this relationship or get to this place physically or whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm like, hey, have those goals, do those things by all means, but recognize that, you've seen this quote recently. In 20 years, you will give everything you've got you would give everything you've got to go back to it being as healthy as you are now and as able as you are now and have all the things that you have now. And I think that's true, So I think that's an important thing to realize.
Now, obviously, you're still living. How do you approach challenges now after, kind of having this outlook on life? And what is your advice to other people when they face challenges?
So at this stage in my life, I'm 54 years old and have had a certain amount of, I accomplished a lot of the things that I wanted to, right? We have a phenomenal team. We help a lot of people. We have offices in different places. We have a podcast where I can share these things with people and I think have an impact and hopefully help a lot of people fulfill my mission and all this. And, I've done a lot of the things that I wanted to do. I have a family. I have my health. I have, a wife and kids and all this. And we do some of the things. We go to places and see some of the things and experience some of the things I wanted to do. So I've done a lot of the things that I set out to do, which is great, But I'll tell you that when you get to that point, so let's just take professionally. In my geographic area, 20 years ago, I would look and go, hey, I would like to have an office like this, where we have this great team and these great people and we're able to help all these people and we have this great reputation and all this. Well, now we have done that thing. And I think we have that, and so then it becomes a different thing, right? You think as soon as you get there that everything's great and you're going to be, and then it's just, sunshine and rainbows. And that's not necessarily false. It's just now you got a whole different set of challenges, right? Because there are always people coming to try to knock you off, or there are challenges that you could face that could, what if you make a mistake and you hurt and you negatively impact somebody else, and then it negatively impacts your reputation, or, what if, this team that you've built, what if they leave? What if they find something they want to do better? What if, what if there's a change in the law? What if there's a change in the, all these things could happen and negatively impact this thing that you have built. And now you've got so much of your identity tied up in this thing, and then it's just, so I think that we have to define ourselves based on this commitment to our mission, vision, values. And that can't just be tied to financial or other kinds of success, because otherwise I think we will be disappointed when we get to where we think we want to go. And you have to continue with your mission to do whatever it is you're trying to do. For me, it's impact people in a way that helps them recover physically, financially, and emotionally from an injury. And so, if I have that vision, then no matter what happens around me, I can continue to do the things that fulfill that vision and find my joy, peace, and happiness that way.
You kept saying continue. You have to continue to do this. What role does consistency play in this journey for you?
So if I'm talking to a young person about something, they always have this kind of, they want to make an impact. They want to accomplish something. They want to achieve certain things in life, and you never know exactly, okay, what do I do? What does that look like? And I think that's, you got your youth to figure that out, right? At some point, I think it's important to make a decision. This is what I want to do with my life. This is how I want to make an impact. This is how I want to help other people. And I think it needs to be defined in terms of what you can do for other people rather than what you can do for you. You clearly want to be able to do things for yourself and for your family, of course. But I think in order for it to be successful at that, you've got to find your purpose and how your purpose fits into helping other people. And so to me, that boils down to, consistency becomes such a huge piece of this because I know people, and maybe you do too, who maybe they do this job for a little while, and then they do this job for a little while, and then they do this job for a little while, and then they do this job for a little while, And it's like, I don't know how you can ever get to be good at what you're doing. I don't know if you know this or not, but there's an author, Malcolm Gladwell, the 10,000 hours is part of what he has talked about. I don't know if he originated the concept or whatever. I've read his books and I've heard him speak, and phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal guy. He talks about 10,000 hours, and the idea is you've got to invest a certain amount of time into something before you're going to be good at it, whatever that is. There's another guy too that says that if you work, 18 hours a week for a year, then you'll be better than 95% of the population or something. I may not have that exactly right, but the concept is the same. And that is, if you can identify, let's say you take your 20s to identify what it is you want to do, or it can be later in life, it can be your 50s. But at some point, if you identify this thing you want to do, then sticking with it becomes very important. I'll give you an example. There's a famous statue in Rome at St. Peter's Basilica. It's the statue of St. Peter. St. Peter is made out of bronze. The statue is made out of bronze. And the way that he's sitting is kind of sitting with his I think his right foot is kind of protruding a little bit from the base of the statue. And if you look at it, you can see that it's worn over time, right? So you look at it and you read about it and you go, okay, well, why is this thing's worn over? It's like used to look like the whole thing else looks just like a person, right? And it just looks like a person sitting there that's been frozen in bronze. This thing is worn to a nub, and you're just like, so you go out and read about it and you're like, okay, the reason is because for years and years and years and years and years, people have come to see the statue and have kissed his feet in sort of respect and sort of, reverence of who he was and what he was able to accomplish and gift to us. And so I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, okay, well, this one of the softest things we can do as a person is to kiss something. But if you kiss something enough times over and over again, over weeks and months and years, it can erode one of the strongest things that we have in our world, bronze. So I think then to me that becomes a lesson. Like, so if I want to accomplish something and I work at it a little bit, I might succeed. If I work at it a little bit every day, I might succeed. If I work at it a little bit every day over a matter of weeks, and then over a matter of months, and then over a matter of years, and then over a matter of decades, eventually I'm going to do the thing that I set about doing. So that consistent activity, will wear down whatever barriers there are to success. So consistency is the key to success over a long period of time, in my opinion.
Okay, now we've kind of gone over your main takeaways, but what is your key message to, our listeners that may be experiencing their own failures or about to?
The other thing that I would want to mention to people is when you see somebody, you see Tony Robbins, who's got it all figured out. You see David Goggins. You see all these people that are these life coaches. I have coaches myself. Or you see a neighbor or a kid at school or somebody, and it looks like they got it all figured out, To somebody, I look like I got it all figured out. To me, it looks like you've got it all figured out. But the truth of it is, we are all works in progress. So even though I talk about my mission, vision, values, and my goals, and all these things, that I want to try to accomplish, and some of the things that I have accomplished, I have all the same struggles that everybody else has. Tony Robbins has all the same struggles that everybody else has. He just has to remind himself back of the things that he wants to try to accomplish and how he wants to go about doing those. And then so one of the most important things, in my opinion, about this piece of it is it really helps to have somebody who believes in you, right? And so For me, that was my mom. So like as a kid, I have all these frailties, insecurities, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm like, I could have gone in a million different directions, you know. But my mom, in her belief that I was exceptional or whatever, was unwavering, right? And somehow she got me to believe that. So we all have. If you look behind every person who accomplishes really phenomenal things, there's almost always somebody who believed in him. You know what I mean? Like Michael Jordan, his dad believed in him and made him believe that you are capable of greatness. I mean, Shaq talks about his dad and what the things that his dad instilled. It could be teachers, it could be coaches, it could be, you know what I mean? And some people don't have that. So I've always thought, how fortunate I was to have that, growing up, this person or these people, these different people in my life that like, you know, kind of part of the crowd and connected with me and said, hey, you have something, you have a potential that you need to develop and that you can have a great impact on your community or whatever, you know? And it was coaches or whatever, or teachers or just random, or sometimes clients that just say, hey, listen, I really appreciate, you doing this thing for me that other people haven't done, And so I realize how blessed I am to have had those relationships and those experiences. So part of the reason why I wanted to do that was I wanted to be, at least through video, that person to somebody else, to say to somebody else, I don't know what happened in your deal. You've had problems, you've had challenges, you've had obstacles in that you need to overcome. But what I'm telling you is that you can overcome it. You can find, you know, strength and like these things that happen in your life that are bad and that you think are overwhelming and that make you want to curl up in a corner and give up are not curses. They're not. They are blessings. They are the battle scars. They are the things that are going to give you the strength to overcome and to accomplish anything you want to in this life. And so in my own story, my own journey, my own experience, like these things that I had that have experienced, I wouldn't change any of them. And I believe they're the reason why I am who I am. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us to stay up to date with our weekly episodes. We'll see you next time.